and really nail down what that scope, what those responsibilities are, because otherwise, if you're not like doing your own due diligence, you can really miss out on some key things that can kind of blindside you later.
Absolutely. Always make sure if the other side's got an attorney, and you best believe they do, don't go at it alone.
Yeah, totally. All right, cool. Well, all right. We definitely talked about a lot because and I know it's really high level. Like I try to open up some can of worms, but thankfully Zach just shut them right up again. But with all that said, and just before we start getting ready to close here, I mean, Zach, like I said, we talked a lot, but like if you were to get like boil down a lot of the topics and things that we talked about, what are like maybe like 3 to 5 things that you think would be key points that indie devs, should consider when they have to lawyer up?
Absolutely. So point number 1, when you're ready to take your hobby and turn it into a business, make sure that 1, you set up the legal entity that makes sense for both your immediate needs and long-term needs. And I'm not saying long-term, 5, 6, 7 years, because obviously that will change. But for the next 2 to 3. Number 1. Number 2, contracts. Contracts are the most important aspect of this business, whether it's independent contractor agreements, whether it's your partnership agreements, whether it's your shareholders agreements, your operating agreements, whether it's your asset purchase agreements, your licensing agreements. These are what is going to make sure that when you release your successful game, that someone isn't standing there with their hand out going, hey, you used something that you never had the rights to use, pay up. Because that's the worst feeling in the world.
Okay.
Number 3, think about the end customer. And I know that seems weird as this 3 because I'm going to try to get to 5 here. But think about the end customer and think about what you can do throughout development and at the point of when you've released to be as transparent as possible. This is going to be a big shift in the industry, not just on a privacy perspective. And this point spans not just the legal side of things, but I would say in all aspects of it. So for the legal side of things, an example of being transparent is already happening right now in the EU with loot boxes and microtransactions. They are countries within the European Union that are forcing things like showing percentage chance for drops. I think that is fantastic. Will that lower sales? Possibly, but you bet believe that if there's a 0.1% chance to get that particular skin, and there's the only way to get it, people will still buy it and still try for it. There's no shame in being transparent. The more transparent you are, the more connected you are with your community, with your end user, with your players, with their customers, the better. And that goes in with customer service is one of the most important things you should be thinking about. This came up in a talk recently. It's something I very much agree with, and this also ties in with loot boxes and microtransactions. If you have a parent that is calling your customer service line and they are irate because little Billy used mommy's credit card to bill $5,000 on Fortnite,
Yep.
refund the money.
Yep.
If you don't, you're going to see what happens, and it's already happening today.
Yeah.
Like we talked about with the ESA, you do not want the government to get involved. And now you have senators passing bills to ban these monetization practices. The more predatory you are in these roles, the worse it's going to be for the industry in the long run. You want to be the company that's kept out of these news articles.
Yeah.
You want to be the company that is praised for, I had this issue, I called them, they gave me the money back, it's not a problem. You're not selling a good in the sense that it's a physical good, so if you read from the money, oh my God, you're out the price of that good. It's a digital item, you will sell more. And you will not have to refund these more. But when you get these instances, get back to the customer. And I would say number 5 is button everything up. Make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, your end user licensing agreements are within your game, your privacy notices, your terms of use are on your website. If you're a mobile app, I know that Apple is now requiring these things to be part of your game on the App Store. Do not go online. Do not download generic forms. They will not help you when there's a problem. And a lot of times, and this sounds really scary, Andrew, and you're going to not even believe this, there are people who not only download these forms, but they don't read them. So they don't even know what's in them.
Oh, yeah.
And they are relying on these things to protect them. So do not do that. That is the worst practice you can have. If there's one thing that your listeners take away from this episode is don't use generic downloaded forms.
All right. You heard them, everyone. Don't use generic forms. And then but yeah, I mean, just to recap real quick and all that, when you're ready, start your legal entity. Contracts, make them happen. Get them put together because they are important. Think about your customer. I mean, your customer. I mean, that's why you're doing this, right? You're making games for people who love them. So think about your customer as you're going through this whole process, and be as transparent as possible, and be mindful of like how important customer service is. And then, and last and final is, button everything up. Make sure you have your forms, your policies, all that type of stuff in place. And like you said, Zach, no generic forms, or at least.
And there's a sixth. It's just
okay. Six.
I can't believe it's just we haven't brought it up in this entire conversation, and it blows my mind that I just thought of it now. Your intellectual property. Protect your intellectual property.
Yes.
Register your trademarks. File your copyrights. There are new law. It's not really a new law, but there is new case law that has come down from the United States Supreme Court. You cannot sue somebody for copyright infringement unless you have filed and received your registration certificate, and it takes time. The Copyright Office is extremely slow. So think about these things as you're developing. Protect that intellectual property at all costs. That is your brand. That is your bread and butter.
Yeah. You guys made this stuff. You put the work into it. So it would be in your least best interest to, make sure you protect it. So cool, man. Well, this was very insightful. I'm sure a lot of people got a lot of information out of this. I know it was really helpful for me as well. So I really appreciate your time, Zach, and thank you so much for joining us. But before you go, I just want to make sure that if any of our listeners, have any questions or anything like that, or want to find more about Press Start Legal, what's a way they can reach you? How can they find your website and anything else like social media or whatever?
So the website is Press Start Legal or PressStartLegal.com or PressStart.legal.
Okay.
We own them both.
Oh, nice.
You can get in touch with me almost any time. Shoot me an email, Zach, Z-A-C, at PressStartLegal.com. We have our Instagram at PressStartLegal, our Twitter at PressStartLegal. We set up a Facebook page. We are almost never on it. We never use it.
But it's there.
It's there. If you guys want to like it, you can like it. We appreciate it. But we probably, our most active is on Twitter, and our second most active is our Reddit. We're only doing one this month because I'm going to be in Boston for the International Trademark Association annual meetings that are taking place next week. And then after that, I'm going to be on vacation with my wife in Italy. So
nice.
We only did one this month, but after this month, we'll go back to twice a month at the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday of every month. You can come on to Reddit. It's the Game Dev Reddit. It's an Ask Me Anything. You shoot out questions. We provide answers. We try to get involved with the community and give back because we know that lawyers are expensive. So at least come to these, ask questions. You're going to learn quite a bit. And what we say might help you. But hopefully it does.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it will. And, once again, thanks for you for being here and sharing all this. And everybody else who's listening, check out the website, PressStartLegal.com. Check out the AMA that they have usually monthly or whenever they're available at Reddit. And then make sure to follow them on Twitter because I'm sure that they're tweeting a bunch of helpful insight from there. So, Zach, again, thank you so much for your time and everything else. And have a great time in Italy. But I'm kind of I feel happy now that someone else can experience this cold with me now that you're coming up to Boston. But maybe by like next week, you're going to be up here and you'll be like, geez, what was Andrew complaining about? It's actually kind of nice.
No, I checked the forecast. It's still winter.
It's still winter. Okay.
40s during the day, 20s and 30s at night. It's May. June is just around the corner.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully you don't freeze when you come up here to go to the conference. So, all right, man. Well, thank you again, and just take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, everybody, and thanks again for listening to Indie Game Movement, the podcast that talks about the marketing and business of indie games. Hey, if you want to check out the show notes for this episode, feel free to do so by going to indiegamemovement.com. And I just want to thank our podcast producer, Mustafa Price, and give a special thanks to Taisuke Kimura, who composed the theme, and Donnie Wilson for the logo design. Just really appreciate your help and hard work, guys. If you have any questions or suggestions for the podcast, feel free to email us at igm@rengenmarketing.com. Rengen Marketing is a company that I co-founded that provides consulting services to indie devs. And on our website, we also provide really helpful, in-depth content on our blog. And we also have a free marketing plan template that you guys can use for your next game. So thanks again for listening right here on Indie Game Movement.